Well, good afternoon and welcome, everyone. On behalf of the congregation, the community at St. John's Lutheran Church, we are thrilled that you are here and honored to start this inaugural event of a mental health speaker series, and we are definitely starting off with a bang. We're very excited to be here and very happy that you are here as well. So as a community that hopes to promote health and well-being, and we do that when we realize that in all of these things we are not alone. So it is good to be here to learn, to be able to grow, and to be able to support one another. So without too much further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Heidi Neely. So Heidi Neely comes to us as the program coordinator and research champion for the Alzheimer's Association here in Wisconsin chapter. Her journey to dementia care is shaped by personal experience. Her husband, son, and several close relatives diagnosed with Huntington's disease, which, if you're not aware, is a rare terminal neurological condition that she's been front and center with since 2018. So she wanted to use this experience to help make a difference, to learn and grow. And so she began working in the neuroscience training program at UW-Madison and is bringing now to us her passion and expertise, also to the Alzheimer's Association. And in her current role, she draws on professional insight and lived experience together to help educate, support, and empower individuals, families, and I dare say also whole communities about the topic of dementia. Heidi's deeply committed to advancing awareness and promoting person-centered care, helping others navigate the caregiving journey with knowledge and compassion. And I truly am blessed to have you here with us, not only the knowledge, but also your personal experience, lived experiences, I'm sure is a wonderful gift to help give insight and perspective to those that you deal with and that we hope to be able to share with those that are here today. So without further ado, Heidi Neely, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to talk to you. As she mentioned, I personally am affected by dementia. The name of our association is Alzheimer's Association, but actually our real name is Alzheimer's and Related Disorders Association. So I fit in the related disorders part with Huntington's disease. And if anybody of you know what Huntington's disease is, it is kind of like 4 diseases in one. It starts with looks like what's called, it looks like Alzheimer's, that cognitive decline, the memory, the thinking effect. And then the other parts of your brain start getting affected by this Huntington protein. And there's this protein in your brain, we all have it from mom and dad, and it repeats itself. It says CAG, CAG, CAG. And a normal repeat is in the teens or low 20s. Well, sometimes for some reason, this protein will mutate, and it'll start to get into the 20s. And every generation, it gets longer, and it'll get into the mid-20s and 30s and 40s, sometimes up to the 80s. Well, if it gets into the mid-20s, usually around 26 repeats, you can be a carrier to pass it on to your next generation, which their gene would be longer, their chain. And what happens is once this chain gets past 39 repeats, you will have Huntington's. And the longer the chain is, the younger you will start the symptoms of Huntington's. And what this chain does, it gets long and sticky, and it sticks to the neurons in your brain, causes disruption with the communication between the neurons and the cells, and then the cells die. And so with Huntington's, it's all over the brain. So it starts in the areas with in the amygdala and the frontotemporal, the different areas of the brain which work for cognition. And then it starts with chorea, which is movement. So it kind of looks like Parkinson's, but not shakes, it's grand mal movements. So my husband, his older brother, Scott's 2 years older than him, and about, 2017 is when we met as a family. We were in Yellowstone on vacation, and the oldest brother, Scott, said, "Hey, everybody, we need to get a meeting. Bring the spouses, let's go." So there's 5 spouses. My husband is the second oldest. And we sat down, and Scott, the oldest, started to tell us he started having these weird symptoms, but he was blaming him on his wife. It's like, "Janine, you need to go see a counselor. Something's wrong with you." So Janine went to the counselor, and she's like, "You're fine. You're fine. Bring Scott in." So brought Scott in, and within 5 minutes, it's like, "Scott, you need to see a neurologist." And Dad, Neely, he had died in 2013. He had slipped in the shower, had a brain bleed, had surgery, had cognitive decline, ended up dying. So Scott saw the same neurologist. When Scott went in, the neurologist, looked at him, questioned him. He's like, "Oh, you must have Huntington's like your dad." And he's like, "What? Huntington? What? What are you talking about? Dad slipped and hit his head." Well, little did we know Dad had Huntington's, and they didn't tell us. And they didn't want it on our insurance records or anywhere, which was a good thing, but it's also a very bad thing because you can't prepare, and it's a shock. And so anyway, Scott got his diagnosis of Huntington's, and it's so the cognition, and then it looks like Parkinson's, but it's grand mal movements, and it's the shakes, it's especially balance. Like right now, Scott's only 64, and he has a walker. But in November, he fell twice and had to have brain surgery because of 2 bleeding hematomas, 1 on each side. Right now, he fell 3 times last week, and he's having the nausea and vomiting and throwing up, but he's refusing to go to the doctor this time. He's like, I'm done. But with the walker, he falls backwards. He falls sideways. So you have the cognition, you have the movement, and then you have personality changes. And some dementias get a personality change, some don't. Some actually get better personalities. I've talked to 2 women whose husbands were kind of not so nice while they were married, and once they got diagnosed, they turned into these sweet gentlemen that are kind. I'm like, good. So we hope for that type of personality change. With Huntington's, it's pretty much you get physically abusive and emotionally abusive. So my sister-in-law punched and kicked and thrown against the walls for about 8 years until the cognition calms down, and then the 4th disease you get is ALS, and that's what you die from. And so it's genetic, 50-50 chance of passing this mutated gene. And at the time we met, the 5 of us in Yellowstone in this meeting, and the siblings, our son was engaged. And it's like, oh, well, Brian, my husband, is like, we better hurry up and find out if we have it, 50-50 chance of having the mutated gene. And if we didn't have it, then our children would not have it. But my husband had it. He was a 41 repeat. His brother's a 42 repeat. And so then my future daughter-in-law says, I don't care if Austin has it or not, I want to still marry him. Bless them. And so they got married, and then my son got tested, and he's a 43 repeat. And then Scott, 3 of the 4 of his kids have it. They're 43, 44, and 46. Currently, we have 2 other brothers that tested negative, finally. And then 1 sister who's refused to even talk about it or wanted just head in the sand. She has 6 sons. 2 of them are married, and they said, well, once they turn 18, we'll tell them about it. So to each their own. The journey's hard. It's not a bandwagon that I'd want you to join on at all. But if you are on the bandwagon, there's a lot of us here to support you, to help you. There's resources, and that's what I'm here for. So to start with, I wanted to share, out on the table, I have 4, well, first off, I have a bunch of brochures out there. Great information. There's some about communication, behaviors, understanding Alzheimer's, 10 warning signs. Is it aging or is it Alzheimer's? And then 2 of these resources. This one, online resources, always on the back, there's great resources. But in here, I just wanted to highlight All's Connected. It is a resource that's a chat line online. Over 50,000 people have gone on. There's 2 different chat rooms. One is, I'm a caregiver, and the other chat room is, I have Alzheimer's or other dementia. So you can go on and ask questions. 50,000 people have read and posted and answered, and you can just go on for hours and hours and read questions and answers other people have posted. Great resource. And then another one I wanted to highlight is All's Navigator. This is another one, 2 different squares you click on. I am a caregiver or I am living with dementia. And then you can ask questions, finances, housing, resources, and it walks you through questions. And at the end, it comes up with all these links and other resources for you to read on more about. But other great resources on here too. And then this one is our 800 helpline. Everybody should have this on their cell phone and star it. 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I started doing this. Is this normal? Call. My mom is having problems, but she lives in California. I don't know what to do. Call. You give them the zip code. tell them what the issue is. They could snail mail you, email you information about housing or resources or in-home care or classes or support groups. So much. On the back, it talks about a care consultation. You can call and say, hey, we just got this diagnosis. I don't know what to do. Get on the phone with whoever else you want and talk to one of our trained clinicians for like 30 minutes, and she will help navigate the steps next of what you can do or what resources you can find in your zip code. So this helpline is gold, just so you know. This month, June, we just came out with a hot new tool on your phone. It is a new app. It's called My ALZ Journey, My ALZ Journey. Free app. It's on your Google Store, or it's on Apple Store, Apple Play. Apple Store and Google Play. My ALZ Journey, and it's like, I just got diagnosed, now what do I do? And it'll take you step by step. Tells you exactly what to do, or you're already in the journey. And so you kind of skip past that part, and then you can watch, here's a great video about the latest treatments, or here's about what is Alzheimer's, how is it affecting my brain? This app is full of so much information and resources. So that's huge. And then I have 3 other flyers. Every quarter, and we're just starting tomorrow, July through September quarter. So these are hot off the press. I do these quarterly flyers, and on them, if I email them to you, all of these links are live. So you can just click on them and get the resources. So if you want these, let me know. But this is a newsletter, and it has great information, other caregiver conferences coming up, education, I have it, what to expect. Every quarter I do a lot of different things. This is a support group. We have support groups statewide. Here in Dane County, I think I'm at 9 different support groups, from Verona to McFarland to Cottage Grove to Sun Prairie to all over the place. So if you have other family members in Wisconsin, it's by city. Also, the first top up here, these are virtual. So my loved one's living in a facility, or my loved one is in the early stages, or I have frontotemporal dementia, or I am living with early onset dementia or early stages of dementia for the person living with. So lots of support that way. And then this one I love. I started this last year. I'm trying to get into every single house in Wisconsin. So I started a virtual education series. And so every month I have 2 programs virtually. One of them is an education program similar to today's, and then the other one's a guest speaker. So tons of different topics, tons of great brainiacs throughout Wisconsin and beyond that have joined us. So I've had people from California and Florida join us, et cetera. So my next one is July 8th, Building a Foundation of Caregiving. So if you're in the beginning of the journey or even been in it a while, what do I need to support me through that? And then our guest speaker this month is Heartwork, Caring Through the Grief We Don't Talk About. This one specifically, I asked, he's a chaplain from Bristol Care Hospice, and he does a grief support program, and it's not, someone dies and then we grieve. Well, we know in the dementia realm journey, we go through the dying little by little by little, and we go through that process. And the first process is the day of diagnosis, and you get that gut punch, and you start the grieving process. Well, that's called anticipatory grief, because I felt like I went from 49 years old to 89 years old, and I just skipped 40 years to the end of our marriage, is how I felt. And that I had anticipated all the stuff that's going to happen, and my husband's going to be really bad by next month, and that's anticipatory. You anticipate this loss. But it's a new norm that you have to rewrite. There's an ambiguous grief. It's just kind of this out there grief. And so that's what we're talking about. How, during this journey, we go through grief, how do we deal with that? So that's what that is. So these flyers are out there to take. I also have a paper out there. If you want these, I will email them to you, and I will do it every quarter. And so put your name, your email, make sure I can read it. I get home, I cannot read many of these. And then the last column, it says, yes, send me the Wisconsin flyers. Circle yes. Okay? And that's just out there on the table if you would like those. The second column to the end, we have a weekly email that we send from national and Wisconsin that have the latest on research and treatments and events and all that. That's a weekly email. If you would like that, that's the second column. Circle that. Okay? Again, out on the table. So now, I'm excited to talk to you about Alzheimer's and understanding what it's all about. So the learning objectives today is we are going to compare Alzheimer's and dementia. Are they the same? What are they? How are they different? How does it affect your brain? List the risk factors, and what in the world can we do about those risk factors? Is there anything we can do about them? What are the stages of the disease? What are the scientists doing, and where are we at with the research and treatments? And then the resources, which I just told you a lot of the resources that we have. So first off, impacts. This just came out last month. 2025 facts and figures. We are now at 7.2 million people in America living with Alzheimer's. If you look at the top, 1 in 3, which is 85 and older, die from Alzheimer's. The one under that, between the year 2000 and 2022, deaths from heart disease decreased by 2.1, huge win. But look at the number, deaths from Alzheimer's increased by 142%. Same since 2000. It's horrible. Nearly 12,000 million Americans provide unpaid care. Those of us who have to go from work to part-time to no time because you have to be a caregiver and you're unpaid, which is equal to $413 billion annually in unpaid care. At the top right corner, it kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. In 2025, Alzheimer's and dementia will cost the nation $384 billion, and by 2050, it'll be $1 trillion a year. At age 45, 1 in 5 women are at risk, while 1 in 10 men. Interesting. And in fact, all dementias, 2/3 of them are women. It's very unequal. Up to 4 in 5 Americans are optimistic about treatments the next decade, and we will briefly talk about that. It is exciting. And 92% of Americans would want a medication to slow the progression. I'm surprised it's not 100%, but there you have it. So, time for test. True or false? Alzheimer's, part of the normal aging process. True or false? Yell it out. False. I can just end now. It is a brain disease. It causes problems with memory, thinking, behavior. It is not part of the normal aging. True or false? People younger than age 65 can get it. Absolutely. Less common, but people younger than 65 can also develop it. It's called younger onset. Some people call it early onset. Yeah, I get it. But it's really appropriately called younger onset. The early comes in early stage, what part of the disease progression you're in the early stage. But if you're younger than 65, it's called younger onset. Look at all this you're learning already. So hear from the expert. Heather Snyder,
Dementia is the umbrella term for an individual's changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning. There are many possible causes of dementia, and Alzheimer's is the most common cause. Other causes of dementia are vascular dementia, which is marked by changes in the blood flow and the blood vessels in the brain. Dementia with Lewy bodies, identified by specific brain changes throughout the brain that include the buildup of a protein known as alpha-synuclein. And frontal temporal dementia, which is marked by brain cell loss in the front sections of the brain or the frontal lobe. Each type of dementia may have distinct characteristics to cause specific behaviors in the individual, but there is also some overlap in behaviors among the types of dementia.
So interesting, people are like, oh, I got diagnosed with dementia. Okay, what kind? What caused it? So when you think about this, dementia are symptoms. I have dementia. Okay, memory, thinking. It could be anything to do with behaviors, psychological, anything that symptoms is dementia. Well, what causes dementia? Alzheimer's, 60 to 80% is caused by Alzheimer's, followed by the vascular and down on. Mixed dementia is a tough one. I just met with a lady in a class. They had a hard time with her husband. Oh, it's vascular, it's Alzheimer's, it's frontotemporal. really, really hard time trying to diagnose him. Once he passed, they did an autopsy, 3 different types of dementia. That is why it was so hard. And that's what's called mixed dementia, because you could have Alzheimer's and Lewy body. So,
certainly having the diagnosis of Lewy body was helpful in our planning because we began to understand where this was coming from in the brain, where otherwise we would not have known. Like we knew something was happening, but what was it? To give it a label actually helped, although it was a big umbrella. It explains some of the characteristics and symptoms that we were experiencing and seeing.
So having an early diagnosis is wonderful. The 5th sister wants to put her head in the sand. I don't blame her. I don't blame her one bit. But having an early diagnosis, you have time to plan. You have time to get medical help. You have time to make sure all your papers, your trusts, your wills, your living wills, your power of attorneys are in order. You can do that with or without a diagnosis, so I wish everybody would do that. Anyway, it needs to be done. But this early diagnosis, you also have an opportunity to get into the FDA-approved treatments we have now, which I'll show you in a minute. 2 FDA infusions that slow the progression up to 36%. Huge wins, huge wins. But you have to be in the early stage. So if you have questions, get in. Also, the early stage can be called MCI, or mild cognitive impairment. Some people are like, oh, we got diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. Well, that means there's symptoms. Well, what causes the symptoms? They don't know yet. But every dementia starts with mild cognitive impairment. So get into the doctor, because I divide it into 3 buckets. First one is you get mild cognitive impairment, and it stays at that level for the rest of your life. Doesn't even progress anymore. Second bucket of MCI is it's caused by something besides dementia. For example, my mother-in-law in California had cancer, and during COVID, we went for a month and took care of her before and after surgery. She started repeating herself, having memory issues. I'm like, oh no, cancer and Alzheimer's. But what we found out, it was just cancer brain from her medication. And once those treatments went through her body and cleansed out her amazing body that cleanses it out, the cognitive decline went back to normal. Went back a few months later when she had another tumor. The cognition issues were back. I'm like, what? She was pouring all her medications into a candy dish. She's like, oh, I forgot one of those. I'll take 2 of them today. So due to medication mismanagement, she had cognitive decline, or mild cognitive impairment. High blood pressure, thyroid issues, sleep apnea issues. There's many reasons why people may have cognitive decline. So get in early so that you can rule out everything else. And if you are trying to get somebody to get into a doctor's appointment, which I get that question all the time, I'm worried about him, I can't get him in to see, say, you know what, let's just go in. I'm seeing some things, questioning. Let's go rule them out. Let's go make sure that your high blood pressure is okay. We need to go in and have your annual for Medicare. Everybody should have that annual Medicare appointment. Let's go in and have your annual. Slip a paper to the doctor. Make sure you do that, the brain scan, the brain questions. So, very important. So, the brain. I love talking about the brain. Let's hear from an expert.
More than 100 years ago, Dr. Alzheimer described specific changes in the brain, what we now call the formation of plaques and tangles. Alzheimer's is a progressive brain disease that's marked by these key changes and impacts memory, thinking, and behavior. The brain has 3 main parts: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. Each one plays a role in how the body functions. Alzheimer's disease causes nerve cells to die, which leads to brain tissue loss and causes loss of function and communication between cells. These changes can cause the symptoms of Alzheimer's, such as memory loss, behavioral issues, problems with thinking, planning, and at the end stage, swallowing.
So Alzheimer's, I remember when I first started here, and somebody asked, so Alzheimer's, you just get memory problems and you repeat yourself? I'm like, well, kind of, and I didn't know how to explain it yet. And they're like, well, what's the big deal about that? I'm like, oh. As I've learned, it's a much bigger deal. There's a lot of things that happen, not only just memory, but thinking, hallucinations, physical changes, the swallowing. But everybody who has dementia is just one person that has dementia. They are totally different. There's not one pattern of dementia, and that they'll go through all of these stages. For example, my brother-in-law, Scott, 2 years older than my brother, one protein repeat older than my husband, one repeat more than my husband. Day and night differences. Scott had 8 years of physical abusing his wife. My husband's not even yelled at me yet or sworn at me yet. And he's only 2 years behind him. Like, I'll take that version of Huntington's. So same with Alzheimer's. We have 10 symptoms that we talk about on a brochure. Some people may have 3, some may have 5, some may have all 10. So you can't compare your journey with anybody else's. What she talked about, plaques and tangles. These are proteins, just like a Huntington protein. These are proteins in your brain. The plaque is beta amyloid plaque, and when you see those pictures of kind of like electronic pictures of tree branches, if you see them, they're like electric of your brain neurons. And what happens is you say, I'm going to the store, and so you have this thought coming down this chain of neurons. I want some water bottles, some napkins, and some rewire. Oh yeah, and some paper plates. So what's happening is this beta amyloid, or these plaques that are like cotton balls, they're sticking on the outside of those neurons. And so when this thought or a memory or an emotion's coming down, and that plaque gets in the way, and then you have to rewire. The second one, the tau, gets all sticky together, kind of like a Huntington protein. These taus get all stuck together, and they're on the inside of the neuron. And so as that knowledge is coming down and the message is getting sent through the neurons, it's knocking the neuron inside, so where it's not able to communicate to the next neuron. So beta, amyloid, and tau affect the neurons on the inside and the outside, which affects those emotions, the talking, why you can't get the word, etc. You look at number 3, there's your healthy brain. See how shrunken that Alzheimer's brain is, the dark places. It's because those 2 proteins are stuck to the brain cells, and the brain cells die. So that's what is happening in Alzheimer's. Is it the cause of Alzheimer's? It could be. There's many, many reasons that Alzheimer's happens. People have died with both of these with 0 symptoms. Why? It's in the research right now. Research is huge, huge. They're talking about vascular research, misfolded proteins. Huntington's is a misfolded protein. There's miscommunication and firings between connections. There's so many things that can cause Alzheimer's. That's why we don't have a cure, because there's so many different areas of research. 75% of our research right now is not even on these 2 proteins. They're researching everything else. It's crazy. So, risk factors, very important to talk about. But how smart are you? What is the greatest known risk factor for Alzheimer's? Genetics, family history, or age? Okay, I heard age, I heard genetics. Anyone for family history? Huntington's, definite family history for that one. For Alzheimer's, age. Number 1 risk factor. After age 65, the risk of Alzheimer's doubles every 5 years. 34% of people 85 and older have Alzheimer's. That's what they die from. So we're going to hear from an expert again.
Alzheimer's disease is marked by specific brain changes that result in the clinical changes in individual experiences. That is, changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning. And ultimately, Alzheimer's is fatal. The exact cause for these changes is unknown, but there are some hints as to what may contribute to an individual's risk. Age is the greatest known risk factor for Alzheimer's, and when we look at populations of people, we see an increased risk over the age of 65. However, Alzheimer's is not normal aging. Family history is also a known risk factor. Research has shown that those who have a parent or a sibling with Alzheimer's are more likely to develop the disease, and that risk increases if more than one family member has Alzheimer's. When we talk about the genes involved in Alzheimer's, there are 2 categories that could potentially be involved: risk genes and deterministic genes. Risk genes increases an individual's risk for developing the disease, but does not guarantee that they will develop Alzheimer's. Deterministic genes, which are rare for Alzheimer's, guarantee that the person will develop the disease.
So risk, my brother had it. You're at a higher risk. We don't know what percentage that means. It's totally different because it also is based on, well, how's your heart? How's your blood sugar? How's your other levels of your whole body? It does put you at a higher risk. This is crazy. Black Americans, twice as likely than white Americans to develop Alzheimer's. Why? We don't know. It's in the research. Hispanics, as well as our Asian and our tribal communities, 1.5 times as likely to have the Alzheimer's. And as I mentioned earlier, 2/3 are women. I love talking about this part, but I want you to listen to 3 people who have different types of dementia.
I'm like an overachiever. And when you're unable to deliver or you're not performing at the same pace that you once did before, that's frustrating. It's frustrating to not know where you place things. It's frustrating to not be able to explain to someone the problems that you're having. You can't articulate it in a way. It's frustrating to read something and you forgot what you read. It's frustrating to continuously have to change your password and you just changed it last week and you're constantly doing the same thing over and over again.
Math, I can't do a simple tip anymore. You know, I sit there, I stare at it. It's crazy what numbers I can't deal with anymore. And in some ways, that's the disease to me. The other thing that I've increasingly been struggling with are words, which I've dealt with words my entire life. You know, as an avid reader, as a reporter, as a writer. I struggle with them now.
I think the thing that surprises me the most about my dementia is that it is progressive, and I'm finding that I'm forgetting more, and they do memory tests for me all the time at the doctor's, and so that becomes a little disconcerting at times, to see my cognitive impairment continue to decline. But again, I really have hope. I don't live really in the future. I can't live in the future. I can't worry about what the future is going to bring. I have to live for today.
That's a huge one. Live for today. If you get a diagnosis, I highly recommend counselors, a good counselor. They sent me up, my first counselor, with a woman who deals with women who lose babies at childbirth because of loss. And so they're like, well, Heidi, you just lost, your future. That was unwritten, but it was a great loss. And so it was kind of like a grieving counselor they put me with. But she really helped me see, it's just like, Heidi, 10 years ago, are you where you thought you would be in 10 years? I'm like, no, not at all. Are you kidding? She's like, exactly. She's like, quit looking at 10 years from now where you're already saying, oh, Brian's going to be bad. He's going to be in a long-term care facility. I can't work. I'm not going to have money. Just all these worries. She's like, you don't know that. And now it has been 8 years, and Brian is not anywhere where I thought he would be as in progression. He's still pretty much in early stages. He's getting to middle. But I worried and wasted so much time on energy of worrying. So it is live for today. We're going to do what we can today. Let's go kayaking. Let's go early. Let's go to a movie. Let's stay up late and eat a chocolate cake together. Just live like we all should be living and enjoy it. And it's a new norm. Our future wasn't written. To me, it finally came back to, I was grieving and being upset and worrying about unmet expectations. 100%. It's what you hoped. I wanted to go on mission trips with them, and I wanted to grow old together and get an RV and travel and see 500 grandkids. but now with our kids with Huntington's, that's not going to happen. I mean, we're lucky any day now we're getting a granddaughter who's going to be born who's Huntington's free, because we know the Huntington protein is on chromosome number 4, and we can do I guess, what is it from them? So my husband and I did cheek swabs, and then they compared it to my son. Oh, no. Yes. Let me back up. My daughter-in-law did the shots for IVF. And so she did those 3 weeks of shots, 21 days. Then they gathered all the eggs. There was about 25 eggs that were ready to fertilize. They combined them with the sperm, and then about half of them in a petri dish will fertilize. 11 of them did. And then they take those 11 and they watch them grow for 5 days to the blastoma stage. And then half of those grow that far. So they were down to 5 out of the 25 or so. And then they take those 5 that are grown that far and they freeze them. And then they take this itsy bitsy teeny tiny biopsy needle and they take a biopsy of that 5-day-old cluster of cells. And then they compared it to mine and my husband's cheek swabs. Said, oh, these 3 have Huntington's and these 2 don't. So Theo is 2 years old and little Monroe will be born any day, and they are Huntington free, and which means they will not spread it anymore. So that's huge, huge wins. Huge, huge wins. So live for today and still have hope. No matter what your journey is, there's still hope. You're still going to have fun, and just don't worry if you can. All right, next. Here's the continuum. So we look at the very beginning of the green, asymptomatic. No symptoms. You have no idea if you have it or not. A lot of you worry, like, oh, my mom had it, my dad. Oh, stop worrying. Don't waste your time in that stage. I know it sits there as a gray cloud. I get it. But it's asymptomatic. But the problem is if you have it, the changes in your brain have been happening for up to 20 years because of the beta amyloid and the tau tangles. So if we say symptoms start, get in, because it's already been happening for up to 20 years already, okay? Then MCI, that's when you have those symptoms, you go into the doctor's like, oh, you have biocognitive impairment. The symptoms are starting. Well, what is it caused by? We're not quite sure yet. Well, this continuum shows causes due to dementia, and we're going to break, or to Alzheimer's, and we're going to break it to mild, moderate, and severe. And the way that's broken down is how does it affect your activities of daily living? Your eating, traveling, your dressing, your toileting, those type of things. Is it starting to really interfere? And a lot of people are like, well, when should I go to the doctors? Well, when it's starting to really interfere, and you're just like, oh, I keep moving this, or where's this in? Get in, because you want to rule out the other things. High blood pressure, thyroid, sleep issues, mismanagement of medications. So get in. By the end of the disease, you'll have the severe level where symptoms are interfering with all or most or not all of your activities of daily living. Now, the fun part. This is where I get really excited about because we've come a long way in just the last 2 years. When we look at this, you can see the continuum, asymptomatic, MCI, and then the purple. First description of Alzheimer's disease was in 1906 by Alois Alzheimer's. It was named after him. It took 90 years for one medication, the first one in 1996, to help. But if you look up there, it's only in the purple area. It only helps with mild, moderate, or severe. And the first 5 medications are only helpful once you have pretty, major symptoms and been diagnosed. And that's helping with agitation, irritability, sleep issues, things like that. Well, if you look at 2020, there's a little asterisk by Belsomra. That's exciting. So when you have a drug idea, it will take decades to get a drug from idea concept through preclinicals, through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, to FDA approval. It'll take decades. Well, Belsomra had already been FDA approved for sleep issues for other reasons. And we said, hey, it's already FDA approved. Let's see if it'll work with Alzheimer's associations or Alzheimer's people specifically. So we tested it and we found it really helps with a lot of people in the mild and moderate stages. And we got to skip the decades of research that had already been done. So those are called repurposed drugs. So that's what Belsomra was. Then in 2021, 23, and 24, we see purple. Those are our big wins. This is where a lot of excitement is coming on. If you notice, aducanumab, lecanemab, donanemab, all those mab, they're in the same class. And what those are is infusions, like an IV, put it in your vein, and you sit there. Aduhelm was the first one, or aducanumab came out in 2021, right when COVID hit. It is now off the market because lecanemab and donanemab are much better, much, much better. Lecanemab or Leqembi, or donanemab or Kisunla, currently are in the United States. What happens is when a drug is approved, huge win, but then growing pains. Because right now we've been studying it at 1,000 people. Now we're trying to get it out to millions. So we're in that growing stage right now. And about 13,500 people are either on the Leqembi or Kisunla. To get onto it, you need to talk to your doctor. You have to be in the early stages. They will do a physical. They will make sure, how's your heart, how's your thyroid. Make sure that you're fit for this infusion. If you are, Leqembi is every other week, and Kisunla is once a month. You may be better for every other week. You may be better for once a month. Both are great. It'll be up to the doctor and your body if you are approved for it. It's exciting. We as an association have a pillar, our advocacy pillar, and we go to Washington, D.C., and we fight for the rights of saying Medicare, Medicaid, pay for it. They do now, which is exciting. And between those two, they have an average of 36% keeping you in the early stages longer, which is months or years for people. So that's why get in early, get your diagnosis early, because these drugs are for early stage only. You don't want to keep people in the middle, the middle and late stages. So get in. But it's exciting, very, very exciting. I also wanted to highlight here too, what can we do to reduce the risk of getting Alzheimer's? Hugely important. If you look at the second bullet, up to 40% of all dementia cases could be prevented or delayed by these modifiable risk factors. They're modifiable, okay? So what are you doing? Are you challenging your mind? Yes, if you have it and we don't know it, brain cells are dying. Did you know you can still create new neural networks if you're learning? Your whole brain cannot be reproduced, but a lot of new neurons can be reproduced. So challenging your mind, that's not just doing a puzzle. It is challenging your mind. It is strategic game, strategic planning. It's learning another language. It's thinking. It's playing chess. You have to play against a partner like, oh, think ahead. What are they doing? It's that type. It's getting a 50-piece puzzle and doing it over and over and timing yourself, trying to get faster and faster. Okay? It's challenging. Other things, big one. If you don't remember anything but this today, every time your heart beats, 20 to 25% of your blood goes around your brain. So every time your heart beats, 20 to 25% of your blood goes around your brain. So don't you think that what's in your blood is pretty darn important? So what do you think is the number one thing you can do right now, today, to reduce risk of dementia? Bingo, exercise. Number one thing, because of oxygen. Number one thing, get moving, guys. It is never too late. Never, never, never too late. Take it today, go home. It's like, you know what? I am not going to take elevators anymore. I'm going to take the stairs. My grandma, who lived to 105, healthy to the end, she's told me, you park in the back of the parking lot. Always. And she's 105 doing this. 99, she finally got a cane. Because she always did that. She always took the stairs. She always parked in the back of the parking lot. During TV, commercials, she'd get up and she'd start marching. Go do some stairs during commercials. There are things that you guys can easily implement into your life. Start small, but grow. Get the oxygen in. Well, what else is important that's in your blood? In your blood? In your blood. Oh, in your life, yes, people are important. Water's important, but there's some bigger up there. Diet. Eat right. Absolutely eat right. Look up MIND diet, M-I-N-D. It's a blend of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. One's a Western medicine, one's the lifestyle of the Mediterranean countries. the Mind Diet talks about the lean meats, the healthy greens, the berries, not fruit, but berries. Great diet for that. The good, healthy fats. And so sleep well. Sleep's a huge one, huge. During night, when your brain is at the deepest sleep, is when your cells in your brain detox. And if you don't get to the deep sleep, your brain is not detoxing, and it's just building up crud. No wonder you have brain fog when you have a bad night's sleep. Sleep's important, get it there. Your 4 numbers, blood sugar, cholesterol, blood sugar, your weight, your blood pressure, and your cholesterol numbers. Get them in your average and where you need to be, even if you have to get on a medication, because those all can contribute to dementia. So all these things we can modify, guys. We can reduce it or slow the progression. And in fact, this tomorrow's July, the end of this month, we have our Alzheimer's Association International Conference. We bring over 4,000 of the greatest brains in dementia research together. We're in Toronto this year, and they're going to release the data in this 2-year pointer study of where we researched 2,000 people with eating good, exercising right, having a health coach that said, okay, here's how to challenge your mind, and strategy, and all those things. And for 2 years, we're going to see the results of how much focusing on that has reduced the risk of dementia. Worldwide Fingers, we lead this. 62 countries in the world doing the same thing. So it's like, well, what are you guys doing in Australia or Japan? What are you eating? What exercises are you doing? How's your risk reduction going? So we are huge into research worldwide. So speaking of this term, of the research, this is Trial Match. The Alzheimer's Association, you can scan this if you want to. We have a free clinical study matching service, kind of like a dating online, but it's research for you. A lot of people think that research is scary and needles and scans and lumbar punctures. Well, it can be. My brother-in-law was in a 2-year study exactly like that, where every 2 months he would come and they would do a lumbar puncture, and they would test the cerebral spinal fluid that bathes his brain and goes down his spinal cord, and they would test it for the amount of Huntington protein in the fluid. And then they would inject this new trial medication, and what it was to do is to go up past the brain barrier, and that Huntington protein, the chain that was stuck to the brain cell, it was to get that to let go and to dissolve and leave. And so they would test that cerebral spinal fluid to see if the levels of Huntington protein were advancing and getting higher, and they were. And it was a double-blind study, which means he didn't know if he was on the medication, nor did his neurologist. Double-blind. But 18 months in, they pulled the study. It's like, what? And his neurologist is like, I know you're on it. You're walking better, your balance is better, your focus is better. But they pulled it because every study out there, there's a third party, and they track the pros and the cons. And if those cons, if there's strokes, deaths, blindness, they have to weigh that against those that are having positives. And with this study, for him, it was doing great. And once it pulled, he went downhill fast. Was that a loss of a study? No, because what they learned is that there was a certain repeat number and a certain age group that were doing really good. So they took that into a phase 2B study, and that's what they're in the middle of a 2-year study doing right now. So that's what we think of a trial. But I can go on a trial match, and I have, and I can say, filter, I am a caregiver with a healthy brain, and I want to do studies that I don't have to travel. And what are there? 98 different studies I could read about and be a part of. You could be a part of, watch this 1-hour presentation, and we want your opinions. We want you to be a part of a health food one, and we want you and your loved one with dementia to eat this certain diet for 6 months, and we want you to record your results every week. Or an exercise program, or just a survey. We have traveling ones, we don't have traveling ones. We have virtual, we have in-person. There's so many different types of trials. Our biggest problem that our neurologist told us when we got the diagnosis, finding a cure for Huntington's, number one problem, not enough people in trials. You can't run a trial without the people to populate it. That's the number one problem right now with trials and finding a cure. Not enough people. And when you look at a trial, just so you know, I used to work before this at UW-Madison in the neuroscience training program, and we worked with PhD students, and I helped them get into their first year studies in around 100 different research labs at UW in Madison. We're huge into research here, and that's preclinical. It's when they're working with zebrafish, cellular models, mice, monkeys. That's preclinical. It could be from years to decades in preclinical. And then once you have proven that your idea, and it works on an animal model, and the success rate is a certain percentage, then they're like, okay, we'll allow you to try this on humans. So it goes to phase 1. You only literally will have like 1 or 2 people in phase 1. That's it. Because what they're doing is taking this from an animal test to a human body and saying, what happens to a human body when they ingest this, infuse this, patch, orally take it? What happens to a human body? Did they die? Did they have a stroke? Did they go blind? Or did they do great? If they do great, then we can go to phase 2. Phase 2 means let's get hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people, just a lot bigger, but still a small group compared to the world. And we're going to look at dosage and also what happens to the human body on a longer period of time. That's where my brother-in-law was on his. He was phase 2. We're going to do 2 years. The dosage you're on, they had 3 groups. You're getting a placebo every 2 months. You're getting the medication every other month, or you have medication every single 2-month dosage. So they were testing dosage. If you have success there, then like, okay, we're going to go to phase 3. That's where you get into the thousands of people in worldwide studies. And you have to prove out of there success. That's the time when you have to prove success. And if you get past phase 3, then you get to go do FDA approval. It's a huge process. But our number one problem is nationwide, we need over 600,000 people. No, worldwide, we need over 600,000 people to populate our current trials. We do not have enough people there. I know just the ones with the Alzheimer's Association on ours, that we have 370,000 people on, 940 different studies. We just need over 70,000 people to populate our current tests. That's not worldwide. That's just the ones we focus on. So please take a look at that, see if it's something that fits into your life. So the association, we are the world's largest nonprofit that goes into Alzheimer's and dementia research. Super exciting about that. Currently, $430 million in 1,150 projects in 57 countries. We get the greatest of the greatest, and we do we do the amyloid, the beta, the tau, the misfolded proteins, the women, the Black Americans, the tribal, food, exercise. We're in it. We're in the research. It is so incredibly important. And I wanted to show you here in Wisconsin, we have been awarded 35 different grants since 1993. Currently, we have 11 of them that are active. And those are at UW-Madison, UW-Milwaukee, and the College of Medicine are the 3. And we have 11 different ones, and they are anywhere from, what is your experience at the emergency department with Alzheimer's? Or there's one about sleep apnea, which is huge in Alzheimer's. There's one for women and the estrogen level in Alzheimer's. So Wisconsin is huge into the research with that. Currently, the live is 2.3 million right now locally in our state in research, which is exciting to hear. And these are some really important things to keep in mind. Our website, alz.org, easy to remember, and you'll stay on there for months because you just can read and read and read and read. There's so much great information on our website. You can go in and find programs, support groups, lots of recorded education programs. If you say /research, go read about the research. What is going on? Where are they at? You read all about it. Or /trial match. That's the one. Look into the trials. I have a healthy brain, or I am living with early onset dementia, and I want to find trials like my husband does. He just tried to get into a trial last year. Talk about scary. It was a phase 2. It was a phase 2 went well, so it was really a phase 3 trial. And they still, though, and they had only tried on phase 2 on 35 individuals. And so now they wanted to get hundreds of individuals with Huntington's, and they would drill 6 holes down into the amygdala and then pour medication in. Yeah. So it's like, you know what? We don't have cures or anything for my husband or his brother or that generation, but we have a son with it. Our other 2 children have not been tested. They may have it, which also means my granddaughter is, I had one who was already born that is at risk. Scott has 2 granddaughters at risk. His other children, the 3 that have Huntington's, all have Huntington-free babies now, and one's going to have 2 of them as well. So this next generation, we're hopefully eradicating it, but we have 3 grandkids, the greats, that are at risk still. So the trials that my brother or my husband and brother are in are for the next generations. So look at the trial matches. That's what we do it for, is for our futures. Our helpline, again, so incredibly important. Call at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock for you, for a loved one. I don't know what to do. How do I have this conversation with them? I'm seeing these symptoms. What do I do next? All of that they can help you with. I want to talk to a trained clinician. We are here to help you. And now to the exciting part. How can you get involved? Lots of people are like, okay, I learned about it, but you know what? I want to get involved now. Or I had a loved one who passed from it. How can I get involved? I want to do something. Volunteer. I work with volunteers. I have 40 different educator volunteers throughout the state that just like, you know what? I can teach 1 class a month. I love teaching. And you can go do presentations similar to this. We have specific ones for our volunteers, but they can teach, and we have PowerPoints. So if you guys like to teach, come talk to me. We also have volunteers in our advocacy. If you love to go talk to representatives and senators and that realm, we always, in February, March, we have Advocacy Day up at the Capitol. And this year we bought 200, and we talked to the senators and the representatives, and we said, we need A, B, and C. We always have 3 kiosks. We took 1,100 last month to Washington, D.C., talked to the nation, said we need another $113 million for funding at the government level from NIH. In fact, for the last 10 years, we used to have $536 million a year, which is like, wow, 536? We're at $3.8 billion a year now because we've been fighting every single year for the past 10 years. $3.8 billion because we've been fighting for it. Trial match, we talked about. Walk to end Alzheimer's. We have 27 walks. We have the most walks of any state in the nation. Those are the walks that fund us. We're always free. Our services are always free. And it's what funds our $430 million globally are these Walk to End Alzheimer's, as well as the Longest Day fundraiser, which is one that is, I'm going to do a cookie sale. I'm going to do a luau. I'm going to walk 5 miles and take pledges. Anything you want to do, as it used to be on the longest day, but now it's really any day of the year you can do it. So thank you so much for letting me be here today. And where are we at? Do we have time for questions? Are we good? Perfect. Perfect.
Hi, I'm Dana Hoffman, and I'm with St. John's Church, part of the Community Life Committee. We're part of the planning group that put on today's event. Our next speaker will be Ann Stone. Ann is the Assistant Director of the Oregon Senior Center. The mission of the Oregon Senior Center is to provide support services and opportunities for older adults to remain as independent as possible in their homes and in their communities. So without further ado, here is Ann to share more about some local resources.
So I can't say enough about the Alzheimer's Association. It's amazing what they do. So thank you. So I'm with the Oregon Area Senior Center, and a lot of you know me. I know a lot of faces in the crowd. Well, I'm just going to talk a little bit about, Dana asked me to talk about caregiver support and help for people who are caregiving. And I just have a couple things. She gave me 5 minutes, so it'll be really short, I promise. Caregiving is hard. There's no question about it. Caregiving in any shape or form is hard. And caregiver exhaustion is real. When you're in the midst of caregiving, you might not even be aware of how much it is wearing on you. It's exhausting. And a lot of times when you're in the midst of it, again, you don't understand how much it might be pulling on you to the point where you could get sick, and then you're no good to the person you're caregiving for. So you have to be very careful for yourself. There is good news, though, that there is help, particularly in Dane County. Alzheimer's Association is one of those places that can help you. At the senior center, if you live within our service area, most of you do, we have case managers at the senior center, and they can help in navigating your way through any situation. You can consult with them, then they connect you to the resources you need, and then they help collaborate working with those resources, whether it be health professionals, whether it be help in the home. There's all sorts of things they can help you get. So please take advantage of the senior center here. There's also a monthly caregiver support group at the senior center, and that includes the meeting with the caregivers and activities for the care partners. So if you're uncomfortable leaving the person you're caring for at home alone, bring them along. We'll give them some things to do in our day program room. We also have, and you're very fortunate to have this in Oregon, we have the club, which is our adult day program. We are only one of 3 senior centers in Dane County that offers this. So you're very lucky to be living here. And the club is a half-day program, 3 days a week, where your care partner can come in and engage in activities. There's a little exercise. They can stay for lunch. And it's a wonderful program and gives you a little bit of a break. The care partner is the one that you are caring for. So the person living with the club is for them, or for the caregiver? It's for the care partner, the person who is actually, the club is a day program. So the people who have dementia that are still living in their homes can come in. Yeah, it's a great program. And they have way too much fun in there. When I'm working in my office and I can hear them having a lot of fun. And they're baking and they're doing all this wonderful stuff, and I'm thinking, I want to be in there. All right, we also work with the Dane County Adult and Disability Resource Center. And through them and through the Area Agency on Aging of Dane County, there are grants available to caregivers to give you some respite care, to help pay for some of the things you might need. And it's definitely worthwhile checking with that, and our case managers can help you get in touch with them. There are also caregiver support groups that are virtual that the ADRC offers. There's specifically a men's care group for men caregivers. There is an adult child support group for people who are taking care of their parents. So there's all sorts of things available where you can get some help and just converse with people who are in the same situation you are. And then the Area Agency on Aging has a brochure for caregivers that has all sorts of things available. I wasn't sure who was going to be here today for the panel, so I didn't bring anything. But we certainly have all sorts of things at the Senior Center you can get. Dina, were you going to do the handout? Okay. Yeah, I just brought a couple handouts for caregivers that you can pick up on your way out. And then if you need anything, call me at the Senior Center. I'd be very happy to help you with that. Yeah.
Is the current senior center going to expand and move to a new location?
That is the plan. The question is the senior center going to expand into a new facility? And the answer is, I hope so. We are in the process of working with architects right now to put together the building that will serve our needs. And it would be located on the same area where we are now. So we are not planning on moving out of the center of town, because that's always the second question. Yeah. Other questions? Questions for Heidi?
Heidi's next. We're going to move on to the panel. Yes, thank you, Anne. Thank you. So we'll move on to the caretaker panel. If the caretakers would please come up to our table up here.
So I'm very excited to meet these lovely women. I have not met you in person yet.
I'm Jody.
So Jody?
Michelle.
Michelle, you must be Jen. So these three are caregivers who have willingly offered to be our panelists. We have some questions that we came up with ahead of time, some very important questions. And they've had a chance to look. Feel free to answer which ones you'd like to. We don't have time for all of you to answer all of them, but what ones you have something that tugs at your heart, please share. And then if we have time, we'll open up to everyone. So first question, what did your first year of caregiving look like, and how did it impact you emotionally and physically? First year of caregiving, whatever that first year is to you.
My first year, by the end of the first year that I was caregiving with my husband at home, it was during that time that my children recognized that it was going to be too much for me. So they started the conversation on, I think we have to do something with Dad and put him in. And I didn't agree with that. I thought I can do this. And but by the end of the second year, my kids said, "Mom, we're going to be putting you in a home pretty soon, and you're probably not going to like that." But she said, both my kids, I have a son and a daughter, and they just said that you're going to be going down the hill real quickly if we continue this.
Yeah, thank you. Either of you two?
Go ahead. So I feel like I've started my journey a couple times. So the beginning of my journey probably started in 2015. Right when I became a mom, both of my parents started having some health issues. My dad had Parkinson's, and a lot of, I think, my acceptance of what was going on was my mom's just under caretaker stress right now. I kind of started blaming it on that. As my dad's Parkinson's journey advanced, then I also noticed changes in my mom the more I spent time with them. In the last weeks of my father's life, my mom was unaware of what was going on, and it really hit me at that time that, wow, her dementia is a lot, it's advanced more than like I wanted to accept again, and it's kind of like their dysfunction looked functional together.
Mm-hmm.
And when my dad did pass, seeing the need that my mom needed at that time, it was kind of like starting over again. So it was like a new start to her journey. And without my dad there, it was me jumping in full time to help navigate and trying to navigate and enjoying my own world as becoming a new mom in 2015, and then restarting again. It's been a journey that was unexpected, a journey that I didn't know which direction we were going, and it was hard for me to accept the journey we went on because my journey looked very different of how I wanted it to go for them.
Yeah, the new norm. Yeah, thank you, Michelle.
So my journey has been about 4 years long. My father has about an 18-year history of mild cognitive impairment. That is, it's progressed. And I have a history, I was a physical therapist, so lots understanding placement and understanding a lot of those pieces. I'm not a financial advisor with Edward Jones, so understood those financial pieces as well. So I was seeing my parents year after year after year and understanding exactly where my dad was at and knowing most likely where things would continue to go. And then my mom abruptly had a medical diagnosis and was gone in about 2 months. So about 4 years ago when she abruptly passed away, and then his needs were all of a sudden my needs. And he's a highly physical functioning gentleman, a highly verbal functioning gentleman, with a fairly good long-term memory. So placement didn't make sense, although my extended family, my siblings, my husband, all felt like there's no way you can do this. You're going to run yourself into a really dark, bad place. But wanting to give honor to my mother, wanting to respect and give honor to him, and quickly trying to amass a plan, be it food into the house and caregivers into the house. And, you have the fear and you have the all of the grieving that becomes accelerated, all those unknowns of panic and fear and how can I make this work. So slowly but surely started to develop a plan, some with resources of the Alzheimer's Association, some with some resources from the Senior Center, and then my personal resources of my healthcare background and my finance background, assembling a team of people that would be coming into the house. And how do I create a binder for meds and for food and for some cooking and some cleaning and a lot of stimulation for him, both physical as well as cognitive, as well as social, understanding the pieces of the puzzle that are risk factors. But still, I think whomever you're going to talk to, you start in unknown territory, in unknown waters, and just trying to figure out what are the pieces of the puzzle that are going to be the best for the patient, I guess you want to call that, as well as what's going to make sense to keep your own sanity and your health.
Amen.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's where the My ALZ Journey app on the phone is huge. I don't know what to do. Click. It'll take you step by step. Or the My, or All's Connected, All's Navigator, ADRC, especially the care managers at the senior centers will take you from ground zero and help educate step by step. Super important. Okay, next one. As a caregiver, what has been the most surprising part of your journey so far? Any big ones yet?
I'll start.
Okay.
When I think of the word surprising, sometimes it's a good surprise and sometimes it's an uncomfortable surprise, I think. I think a few of the things through my mom's journey is it's made me look at life differently. It's made me step back and embrace maybe things that we kind of take for granted, the little things in life. So I put here that she's stretched me and she's allowed me to grow, and she has changed me in ways that she's not even aware of. So although it was stressful, overwhelming, it still is at times, I've really had to change my mindset and allow myself to jump into my mom's world. I wanted to keep her a part of my world and what that felt like comfortable, how I knew my mom for years and years and years, and I've really had to grow and stretch myself through this.
I love that.
I think reminding ourselves to give ourselves grace and accept ourselves and accept these changes no matter kind of how challenging they are.
I love that. Thank you. Either one?
As Dad's cognitive impairment has progressed and he worries less because he's just in the moment, which is, I've learned is surprisingly lifted me out of some real anxious, that constant worry where I'm just today and where is he at, and that's okay. I don't have to figure out the next 10 years. We're just right where we are now. So sort of that same thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Jan, any thoughts?
Michelle is familiar with Daryl, and so is Kelsey Dunn. Daryl has maintained his sense of humor, which is just incredible to me. can't remember squat, anything else. But I tell you, his sense of humor comes out at I hope the most appropriate times. But I think the girls have gotten to understand him. Yeah, he's been able to maintain that. The other thing that he's been able to maintain is he came from a very strong Lutheran background, and it's just a joy to bring him to church. I mean, he'll ask every day, "Are we going to church tomorrow?" No, it's a couple more days, and how he can verbalize church. The Lord's Prayer, the Creed, all that. It just comes out. I mean, he'll sing with the choir, even though he has never been in the choir. But if there's songs that he's familiar with, he will sing along with them. And so that has really helped me a lot. Is just his sense of humor that he's always had, and it's still there.
I love that. Humor, number one thing for the caregiver. You have to laugh. You have to laugh, even in the midst of, like I was talking to my sister-in-law yesterday, and Scott had fallen again, like I mentioned, and he definitely has a hematoma, but he's refusing to go in and get it checked. So he's nauseated, he's vomiting, he has diarrhea. And so she's just like, "Oh, Scott, it looks like you threw up again." "No, I didn't." He's like, "Yeah, honey, there's this like all over your pillow." He's like, "I didn't." She just has to laugh. It's like, okay, deny what you want, and you just got to laugh. Laugh. Okay, how do you manage the financial strain of caregiving? What resources have you found to be helpful? This is a big one. This is a scary one for me.
In 2000, I was still working for the Oregon School District at that time, and the business manager brought in somebody. The school district did not pay for it. It was, you had to sign up and you paid for it yourself, but it was offered to us under Unum long-term care insurance. I don't know what I would do if I did not have that long-term care insurance that right now is paying for Daryl.
Did you get it after his diagnosis?
No.
Okay.
No. Daryl was just diagnosed maybe 6 years ago now.
Okay. So that's the problem, is once you have diagnosis, you don't qualify.
Yeah, no, it was something the school district offered, and I just thought, well, can't hurt. I knew how much nursing home costs were and things, and so that has taken that burden off of me.
Good for you. Michelle?
Yeah, so my dad was also a part of the Oregon School District as a teacher here in the district, and he actually took out long-term care for himself and for my mom. And unfortunately, my dad was really resistant to wanting to use his long-term care while he was alive, and we didn't get to access his the way that we wanted to. But we are able to provide that now for my mom through her plan, and we've been able to cover her now for over 2 years, and we'll be running out of that funding the end of this year, and so navigating and looking at how will that look with my mom's finances, and they're investing in things through the years. So, Medicaid, looking at that and how support you could get from there. I also had looked into ADRC. I looked at grants that were out there, but just given their income that they were receiving, they couldn't qualify for some of these grants. But it doesn't hurt to look and see what resources are out there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. My folks also, mostly my mom saw the writing on the wall with my dad's parents and changes that she had seen there. They did have long-term care insurance. She accelerated through her disease and died so quickly we didn't get to use it for her at all, with some needs that we needed in the house. And then, God darn it all, if my dad wasn't so high functioning that every time a nurse came in to do an evaluation, they're like, seems, nope, but it does seem okay, but it's clearly not. So it took a while, and I'm thankful that I had my medical background as well as the financial knowledge that I had to help the process along. But yes, the long-term care is helping. From a financial advisor knowledge base now, although traditional long-term care has become extremely expensive and almost isn't sold at all now. there are a lot of hybrid products out there that are combined with whole life insurance and then have a piece of a long-term care chronic illness rider that can be used off of it that oftentimes will deplete or decrease the death benefit of that policy, but you can use it while the person is living. So if any of you would have questions, whoever you work with in terms of a potential financial professional, those are questions to still ask. So those hybrid products are out there. The old long-term care products, if you didn't use them, you just lost them. Now the combination life insurance products with chronic illness riders can be used for either need, and that's worth a conversation with someone just to sort of find out. But yes, I mean, you're right, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you would think would be cheaper routes like in-home care can end up being more costly even than facility care.
Yeah, thank you. The product she's talking about, living benefits or accelerated benefits, I am grateful that our in-laws did not tell us about the Huntington's disease, because if they did, we as the children would not have qualified because it's genetic. But when Scott had said we have our diagnosis, his kids were insurance people, they're agents, and they're like, you four who have not been tested yet need to hurry up and apply for life insurance with living benefits. And that's what she's talking about. And Monday of last week, it took us 5 months, but my husband has progressed enough to where now we had to apply, get a letter from the neurologist, and they looked at our medical issues, We applied to his life insurance, and they said, we will give you 24% of your death benefit, minus all these fees, and minus these fees, and minus these fees, minus these fees, a lot, about $100,000 less. But we got a chunk of change to use for my husband's care. We have to reapply every year, and so it's 24% each time, so it'll be good for 4 years. But we can take it out while he's living, so it's called a living benefit. And it is saving our life, because my husband had to quit work 6 years ago, so it's me.
And oftentimes those benefits will pay for not only caregivers, but if you need a ramp, if you need to remodel your bathroom, if you need equipment for the home, to not only help the person who's living with the issues, but the caregivers as well.
Yeah, and we just got it, and we can just invest it into a 401k and use it later. We are using part of it right now. We need new windows. We need to get our house ready to sell eventually, etc. But yeah, highly recommend it. So we're going to have one of you guys answer the rest of these questions. We have Dana till what time?
So about 1:30, and then take some questions.
Okay. So let's go for, who wants to talk about how do you manage feelings of guilt or stress, especially when balancing caregiving and other responsibilities? Michelle, do you want to do that one, being sandwich generation?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, I put my life kind of on hold and really focused on my parents and caretaking, and just felt the guilt and stress of it all. And I've realized, I think with that acceptance piece, I joined a virtual support group through ADRC. And I think being in this sandwich phase of my life, I felt like I couldn't connect with a lot of people who my age, a lot of my friends, their parents are still able to, live in their own homes. And I was struggling with that. So by joining this group, it's helped me feel maybe not as alone as I did before. I also, my mother is at the Beehive here in Oregon. And I have been able to start kind of a connections group there. So I've taken my journey into how can I help others, and that has not only fulfilled so many areas of my life, but providing something for others that I always kind of was seeking when I made that transition for her into memory care. So that's really helped me with that stress aspect.
Love it.
So
you cannot be a lone island. You have to have community. Have to.
Yeah.
Jan, what is the most rewarding part of caregiving? How does it make the hard work worthwhile?
Well, I guess I'm just kind of getting to that now. I didn't feel very worthwhile when I had my husband at home, but he too is at Beehive, and I think knowing that he's well taken care of when I'm not there, and I go every day, and for a few hours started out with a long 4 hours in the afternoon, and now I'm down to just a couple of hours. And it's worked out well, but it's just hard. It really is. There's no getting around it. It's just, it's a tough, we've got our 52nd wedding anniversary next Monday, I think. And, birthdays come and go, and it doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah, that's hard.
So I just rely on the Beehive community people to help too.
Good. Thank you. Jody, what type of support or resources have made the biggest difference in your caregiving journey, whether through formal channels or personal connections?
So I now have a staff of 12 in the house that I coordinate that are in-home caregivers from 7:30 in the morning till bedtime. And I communicate with most all of them almost every time they're there. Sometimes there's cameras in the house, so I will watch sleep. He's there alone, and I will give updates in terms of how the night went, if he was up early, if he got dressed early, if he tried to go up to get the paper earlier, if he was dressed for church or dressed to go to work. And he will answer the phone, so I do a lot of phone calling in the bedtime realm, in the middle of the night if it's needed, and then the early morning as well. But I have a binder there. They write notes, kind of like if you were in the hospital and you were getting charting every shift. What kind of mood was he in? Did we go to a place that was a little bit harder to deal with? But that interaction with those caregivers gives me support and gives me a feeling of not having to worry, but to share that worry and anxiety a little bit. I have not entered into any support groups personally, because it was one more thing that I felt like I couldn't put on my plate. I also, when my mom passed away 4 years ago, when I started this process, I had 2 kids in grad school and 1 in undergrad. So although I didn't have little kids, young adults are still a hard piece. So I was kind of in that sandwich generation and trying to maintain, full-time employment and helping those people, and still having a spouse that I was trying to have a relationship with. So I was being torn in a lot of different directions. It's something I know that I need and could give to and would receive, I'm sure, a lot of emotional support, but it just wasn't one piece that I felt like I had. There wasn't anything left for me. But I'm getting there as I have come to peace with a lot of the caregiving responsibilities and the journey that I've been on as well. Yeah.
Amen.
There's a lot of phases. There's a lot of phases, I think.
Absolutely.
Go through grief-wise.
Absolutely. So then we'll go to you, Jody. Go backwards. How do you maintain your health and well-being then while caring for somebody?
So a lot of reading, a lot of research. I mean, I understand the nutrition part. I understand the sleep part. I understand the exercise part. I have gone back in the last couple years to trying to be much more social, whether it's my extended family or my friends. When all this landed in my lap, there's the grief pieces, there's the anger, there's the resentment, where I really kind of built up walls and just wanted to be a little bit left alone, because the same thing. Majority of my friends my age, their parents were aging and traveling and doing well, and you have a little bit of that kind of resistance as well. But I've just tried to let those guards down. Eating better, sleeping better, exercising more, communicating with my husband more, trying to do more social things with friends, and know that I am still living, and I can't put myself on hold while I'm dealing with this person with advancing dementia.
And at the end, you talked about eating, exercise, those 10 modifiable risk factors are more important to the caregivers, because we are at higher risk because of the stress of getting dementia ourselves. You have to take care of yourself. Okay, and for you too, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself at the beginning of your caregiving journey? Or you could pass.
Be forgiving to yourself.
Oh, amen. If you couldn't hear that, be forgiving to yourself.
You can't be it all.
I love that.
A few of the things that I wrote were, I'm not one to ask for help. I think I wish I would have asked for more help. I think I felt like for so long I can do all this, and I would say people want to help, and so don't feel like you're inconveniencing anybody just to have them come over or bring a meal or whatever it may be. So I think asking for help, making the time for yourself so you still feel functional in your own world, and making yourself a priority. Keeping a journal. I did journal, but I wish I would have done more when having to follow up with doctor's appointments. And maybe even starting attending doctor's appointments maybe a little bit earlier than I did.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Panelists.
So we have time for questions, whether for Heidi or for our panelists. If you have questions, raise your hand. I'll come over and I'll hand you the microphone because we're recording this and we can hear you if we have the microphone. So, do you have a question?
What can the community do to help you? Is question one. And for Heidi, with the new administration and all the cuts back, what's happening with all the research?
I think just in my little world that I'm living right now, volunteering, coming in, maybe reaching out to, I know the Beehive, we're into a transition where another building is being built, so there'll be a third building soon. And having activities and people supporting while we're doing those activities as the different phases we're going through, as our residents there might need other things. So if you're open to volunteering, reaching out and seeing what you could do to be an active role would be wonderful.
I know for volunteering too, there's a lot of organizations looking for volunteers, like senior centers and ADRCs. They need drivers to drive people to appointments and to get them there, bring food, and there's so many needs for volunteering. So to the research question and the government question, it's a good one, it's an important one. So right now, we just got more updates. We've had some real good wins as of Friday, this weekend. I read it this morning from our ADRC rep for the association. Locally, we had asked at Advocacy Day, there's a certain grant that for caregivers, and it was income-based. And if Wisconsin would have stayed at that income-based, we would have lost like $6.5 million caregiver grants for our Wisconsinites who need them if Wisconsin would have held that income level. Because the government says, you can't have an income level on it anymore. We want anybody and everybody to be able to have it. And Wisconsin held this level. So one of our asks this year was like, get rid of the level. We've got to get that money, the federal. Well, we won. They signed it. So that was exciting. And so we're still having wins. Right now, I know at the level of from the NIH money that we're getting, that $3.8 billion, the only cut that's really we know of is there's called indirect and direct costs to every grant. A direct cost is, here's the building, here's the medication, we're paying $25 per participant, that's direct. An indirect cost is, I want to go to this conference in Canada that is also studying the same thing. That's an indirect cost. The indirect costs are being cut. Up to 50% in some cases. So, but the direct costs for those grants are not being cut right now. So that's about where we're at right now. Good question. While we're waiting for more questions too, walking around, raise your hand if you have more questions. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. Keep a journal, keep a journal, keep a journal. Everywhere you have a journal. Like right now I'm like, oh, Brian backed into a tree. Okay, Brian repeated himself 3 times about the so-and-so with 10 minutes. So when I am at my 6-month meeting with a neurologist, I don't have to remember like, oh yeah, because she always asks, how's Brian doing? Here you go. I put it on my chart so that I don't have to say it in front of him. I hate that. Or if you don't have my chart, you have your journal or you make a photocopy, you hand it to the secretary when you log in to your appointment, and say, please give this to the doctor. Okay? Keep a journal. Also, for asking for help from the community, keep a journal of, oh, it would have been really nice to have somebody help me mow the lawn or weed that east side of the garden or paint this house. write those down. And so when somebody say, hey, how can I help? Give them the journal. They can pick. Then it's off your shoulders, because it's hard to ask for help. It really is. Or you put them on slips of piece of paper, you put them in a jar, and just give them the jar. Make it kind of fun. Pick something. That's what our July 8th class is on, building that foundation of how to get that help right at the beginning.
Heidi, are you going to stay after for a
Yes.
few minutes if people would like to come up individually and ask you? So very good. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Ellen for a few closing comments.
Once again, thank you to Heidi. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to Anne, who I believe is already busy back at the Senior Center as well. But thank you for coming today to share your wisdom and your energy and your love, your care for all those who are dealing with these situations. So let's give them a round of applause. So thank you for that. I also would like to add two other thank yous. One is to our Community Life Ministry team, who put together a wonderful program today. So starting with the lunch, so thank you for that, as well as making us comfortable here. For David for helping us as well. And also to acknowledge that this has been partially made possible by a memorial gift from LeMay Nybrotten. So some of you may know a longtime member of our congregation who passed away, who did deal with dementia in her life, and then her husband who passed away most recently as well, Pastor Ron as well. So in loving memory of those two, we continue to live in their legacy and as well as we can, and share the love that they certainly had for the community here as well. So two gifts. So Heidi, we have two gifts for you and the Alzheimer's Association. So if you would come up for a second, on behalf of our congregation, we'd like to give this gift to you for a monetary check for $100 towards, welcome, whether it's research or whatever would be helpful. We also have a box here of fidget blankets. So if any of you have not heard what this is, these are blankets that have been made by people here in the congregation to do things that help with keep busy hands or active hands busy, I think, and
Love
active
those.
minds busy as well. So this one has just very tactile kind of things that people can do while they're sitting down. This one, it looks like, has a zipper on it that you can open and close, right? So
Super cute.
things that are helpful as well, too. So we would love to gift these for you and whoever might be able to use them, and that might be a gift as well, too. So you're
That's
welcome.
Very
You're welcome.
sweet.
So thank you all for coming today. We encourage you to check out the resources on the tables out available. Heidi will be here to answer more questions if you'd like. And thank you for coming today and be part of this.
Yeah.